guys, and welcome back to Allie and CoCo's Science Show. So today we had a special request to talk about things in space. No, something a little closer to home. No. We are talking about the sun, the earth, and the moon. Let's go back to the 1500s. It's my robe. This is what dudes would wear in the 1500s. Oh, well, it's the only fabric I had. So yes, I am Nicholas Copernicus, Polish philosopher in the 1500s. Hey, this is Editing Allie from the future, and I just realized I said Nicholas Copernicus was a philosopher and he was an astronomer. Back to the video. I came up with an amazing theory that I think is it's gonna take the world by storm. You see, right now, everyone thinks that the Earth is the center of the universe, and the sun moves around the Earth, making daytime and nighttime and day, night. However, I've just been thinking some thoughts, and I think the sun is the center of the universe, and we are moving around the sun. Yeah, it was an idea back then that would have been, is that guy okay? Kind of moment. But in the 1600s, Galileo Galilei, with his fancy telescope here, discovered a bunch of things in our solar system. He also discovered Jupiter and some of its moons, and came up with this idea that Nicholas Copernicus was right, that the sun is the center of our solar system, and it's not just us, but many planets circling around the sun. Actually, when I was in Italy, I went to a Galileo museum and saw a bunch of his telescopes and also his preserved finger and thumb. It's kind of weird now that I think about it. The sun is the center of our universe. It's this huge star, like a million Earths can fit inside the sun, and it's burning really, really hot, like 6,000 Kelvin, which is a lot. So the sun is a huge star, which means it is creating quite a big gravitational pull. Gravity is basically the force pulling one object to another. Just as gravity pulls this Sharpie to the ground, it can also pull planets toward the sun, ignoring the size. So the Earth goes around the sun in what's called an orbit, in like an elliptical shape. An orbit is the path an object takes around another object. And the Earth takes 365 days to make its way around the sun. Isn't that so weird that a year is the exact amount of time it takes to orbit the sun? It's very weird. It's almost like it was planned that way. Now we have 8 planets in our solar system surrounding this sun, and they all follow their own orbit. And each orbit takes a different amount of time to make its way around the sun. So Mercury, which is the closest to the sun, takes 88 Earth days to go through one orbit. So like one of their years is 88 days for us. But Neptune, one of my favorite planets, is the furthest from the sun. And one orbit around the sun for Neptune takes 165 years to complete, like Earth years. So if you're 165 years old, you're 1 Neptune year old. No, I don't think anyone's ever lived that long. Another important thing the planets do is they will spin on their axis. So the Earth's goes from North Pole to South Pole, and it'll rotate around the axis like this. Isn't that fun? Now it takes 23 hours and 56 minutes to rotate once on the axis. So we just round that to 24 hours. And you're right, Colette, that is conveniently the amount of time it takes to complete a day. Now, Jupiter is our biggest planet, but it has the shortest rotation time. It only takes 10 Earth hours to make one rotation, which means they're going pretty dang fast. I'm like, yo, Jupiter, how fast are you going there? And Jupiter says, pretty darn fast. When a certain side of the Earth is facing the sun, it's daytime. And it just keeps continuing over and over again, going from day to night as the Earth rotates. If you look from the North Pole The Earth is rotating counterclockwise from west to east, which is why it kind of looks like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Now the Earth isn't just straight up and down like this. It's actually tilted on its axis at about 23 degrees, 23 and a half actually. And this is really important because as you're making your way around the orbit of the Earth, different parts of the Earth at different times of the year are receiving different amounts of daylight throughout their day. This creates seasons. No, like summer, winter, autumn, spring kind of seasons. So we are in the northern hemisphere right now, and we aren't getting as much daylight hours as the southern hemisphere because we're in winter right now. It's January. And the southern hemisphere is currently experiencing their summer. And it gets even cooler because if you're closer to the poles, your daylight hours are out of whack. Like sometimes, so in the northern hemisphere, during the winter, they might not receive any daylight hours. But then when it's summer, you have almost 24 hours of daylight. It's so wild. Yeah, I know. So we talked about the sun, gravity, orbits, axes, the Earth's axis, and seasons. What am I missing? Oh, the moon. Yeah, this is our moon. Yeah, it is. Can I borrow this? Just as the Earth is pulled in by the humongous sun's gravity, the Earth also creates a gravitational pull, and it holds the moon in an orbit. But just like the Earth orbits the sun, the moon orbits the Earth. The cool thing is that the orbit of the moon and the rotation of the moon both take about 30 days. So we always see the same side of the moon. Now, the moon is kind of cool because its gravitational pull toward the Earth creates tides. And the tide is just a physical rise and fall of the ocean. So when I was in Madagascar, I saw some really cool tide changes in this one area near the mangrove forest. So not only could we swim in the mangrove forest in the nighttime, and then in the afternoon, you could see the roots, the entire trunks of the trees, sand, crabs, everything. But like people would be in boats and they'd park their boat somewhere and then the tide would go out and their boat would be in what used to be the middle of the ocean, but is now just like sitting on top of the sand. So cool. And actually the biggest tide change is in Canada. A single day you can see a rise and fall of 40 feet of ocean. So I've covered the sun, earth, and the moon. All that leaves are the stars. So over thousands of years, people would connect all the little stars in the sky to be different shapes, to create different fables, folklore, stories to go along with what these shapes represented. Now, just as when our Earth rotates, it looks like the sun and the moon might be moving through the sky, the constellations are the same way, because as our Earth rotates, we're getting a different view of what we might see. And not only that, but in different times of the year, you might see different constellations from wherever you are. Now, this wasn't just like fun, looking at stars, making shapes, making stories, but these constellations were very important. A lot of like when they knew when to harvest crops or have different festivals, all depended on what was going on throughout the year. And they knew that by the sky, by looking up at the sky. They'd also navigate. So anyone going on long boat journeys would use the stars to know where to go. So for the question of the day, I want to know, what is your favorite planet and why? Personally, I love Venus. I love that it has a poisonous gas atmosphere and it's like our twin planet because we're the same size, but it's bright yellow when you see it from Earth. So that's exciting. What about you? So Pluto isn't really considered a planet anymore, but I love it. Yeah, so go ahead and comment down below. What is your favorite planet and why? Don't forget to hit that like button if you learned something new or you like cute puppies. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to follow for more adventures. And we will see you again next time.